Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Frontline Excellence, Life Science Manufacturing Forecasts for 2024. My name is Megan, and I am the moderator today. And now I'm excited to introduce our speakers. Gilad Linger is the industry practice lead at Tulip and formerly the head of customer services. He is an accomplished business leader with 25+ years of experience in IT, automation and engineering, service delivery, technical operations, business development, and sales. He has a deep domain expertise in digital technologies and manufacturing business systems, as well as an accomplished track record in digital transformation to drive high levels of operational performance in manufacturing industries, with a special focus in regulated life sciences industries. Michelle Vuolo has been leading quality here at Tulip for over 4 years now, and before joining Tulip, Michelle spent over 24 years in the biopharmaceutical and medical device industries in many different roles, ranging from QC laboratory, engineering, technical support, and computerized systems compliance. She's also a co-lead validation 4.0 working group member, as well as a member of the ISBE Pharma 4.0 steering committee. Really excited for you to take it away.
Hi, everyone. How are you? It's really excited to be here today. You know, it's a really exciting time in life sciences industry in general, just with all the technical capabilities and opportunities that we have out there. So I'm really excited to be here today. We'll start with a quick reflection on some of the predictions we had in 2023. We did the same sort of webinar last year. That webinar was not life sciences specific, but we'll at least share with you what we decided then and how we did with those predictions. Then we'll jump into the meat of the presentation, talking about predictions for 2024, and hopefully end with how to navigate these latest shifts and implement some of the things that we've talked about during the presentation today. So like many webinars you've probably been on, we're going to start with a quick little poll just to kind of get some of your feedback about what are some of your challenges for achieving some of these top initiatives that you might have in your organization in 2024. So I think the poll is going to start. And while, you know, I'm just going to read through a few of these. So first one is about employees, about hiring, training, and retaining employees. Is this one of your biggest challenges? The cost of quality, improving accountability with suppliers and customers, potentially scaling up a new production line or tech transfer, increasing manufacturing agility, or is it about managing risk of non-compliance with digital? We're split across, pretty evenly split. Increasing manufacturing agility. This is interesting. If there's nothing we haven't learned from our COVID years, agility is a theme that definitely has emerged quite a bit. Okay, we've got a relatively close second, and is about employees, which is definitely something we will cover today, as this is definitely a trend that we're seeing, is like hiring, training, retaining, engaging employees. Great. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, so as Michelle mentioned, first of all, hello, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. I'm really excited to be on this webinar together with Michelle and share with you what we believe is some of the things that are going to happen in this next year that we're in. But so just to take us back to where we were in 2023, we did not do a specific life sciences forecast in 2023, but I wanted to take you back into, we did do one for the general manufacturing, which is another few verticals that we work in as Tulip, and it really was hinged around this thing called triple squeeze. It's an analysis that came out of Gartner that reflected on the situation, the macro situation, and how it's going to impact manufacturing. So we still believe it's relevant to go over these few things, and you may have experienced some of it. So the three components initially, starting with inflation. So inflation was a problem last year. Most of the industry would have experienced it as you know, things like cost cutting, optimization, et cetera. What this really says is that optimization, which is always a thing in manufacturing, was even more important. for us to consider this. And this is one of the things that Tulip is unique in with digital transformation, that cost cutting, or at least visibility into where your costs are, is something that we are very focused on. Next is supply chain disruption. And I think that is across the board. It really started COVID times for life sciences, but we still saw a lot of that going in 2023. And the results of that, which is a different way that life sciences is considering to manage the supply chain. So bringing things, the whole onshoring initiative, but also discussions around dispensing and even manufacturing of drugs closer to the patient, especially with some of the personalized medicine that's going on. And then lastly was labor shortage, which is something that is actually increasing across the board. There's less people to do the work that we need to do across manufacturing, but also in life sciences, and we have to deal with that and to simplify the way and make more efficient the way we manufacture. Digital technology obviously is an enabler for that, to deal with labor shortage by not creating more labor, et cetera. So one of the things I did want to reflect on in this, I recently was at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, which is held at the beginning of the year in San Francisco. And although I did not hear a lot about manufacturing in there, there is a general trend that I think is important to bring up is, the speed by which companies want to bring new drugs to market. So the whole clinical supply chain or clinical process that's going on, led by some of the mRNA technologies and some of the things that's going on. So cell and gene was big. Tech transfer was, how do you get drugs to market faster, is something that the industry is very much looking at. So I'm just bringing that as an observation. Obviously the question, and when we think about the future, is how does it impact our everyday in that? But I think more importantly, we need to look at some of the things that happened last year.
Yeah. So as I mentioned when I first started, I think we're embarking on a really exciting time period right now. We're at this shift of lots of things happening in industry. We're also at the point where regulators are really trying to step back and not be sort of the crutch or the reason for not lack of innovation in industry. You can see this by a lot of the documentation or the reports and guidances and documentation in general that have come out last year, from across the globe. We've highlighted a few here, like the FDA has put out guidance and discussion papers on the usage of AI/ML in both drug manufacturing and medical device usage. Also, you can see within ISPE, there's a few things that have come out, like there's, Road to Explainable AI articles. Also, I don't know how much all of you follow the ISPE documents that come out, but like, for example, GAMP is authored by ISPE. GAMP has also just come out with the Pharma 4.0 baseline guide. Also, you can see the reflection paper from EMA. I guess the point here is that there is so much being written and documented and being defined right now about how to use these newer technologies. We've highlighted AI in particular just because, I think there was a little bit of a hype cycle last year. Hopefully we're coming off the hype cycle and moving into more of an active deployment and usage of these technologies that is supported and encouraged by our regulators from across the globe. This is really exciting, right? Like, they are encouraging us to use these technologies, not just because they're new and exciting, but really more because it can improve quality, it can speed up time to market. There's many reasons to be using this to increase the value across our supply chain. I should say value chain. Also, Operations Calling was a great event that Tulip put on that really brought in not only, there was some regulator input, but from across different verticals, that specifically talked about some of these new features and functionalities of these new tools. So it's really, again, an exciting time. We need to start embracing these and looking for opportunities and ways of adopting new technologies. So let's talk about, let's jump in, right? This is hopefully why you joined, is to start talking about some of the predictions for this year. There's 5 main predictions that we'll talk about today. We'll go into deeper dive on each one of these, but as you can see, as you peruse just the high level topics here, we talk everything from about to the technologies themselves, but also really focusing in on the human part of it, like not only the empowerment of workers, making sure we have human-centric technologies, adding context to data. Like data is becoming central to anything that we are focusing on in the manufacturing space, and also the usage of generative AI. I don't think we could have a webinar about technologies without talking about it in the current realm. So let's dive in. Guess we'll start with the first one here, which is the new technologies will empower workers to work smarter. Okay, I think gone are the days of implementing technologies just to implement these technologies and taking a year-long project or 2-year-long project to implement something. But what we're seeing is an adoption of newer tools, the availability of tools out there that are enable much easier ways to capture compliant data. We're seeing what we call composable platforms. I'm not sure what y'all understand here on composability, but composable platforms allow you to build solutions that are much more like building blocks, such as the Legos of manufacturing operations, right? You start with a small piece of technology, you implement it to gain value in a small part of an area, you prove out that value, you move on, and you increase your implementation. This allows for what we were talking about, sustainability. It talks about making us more agile. I think that was the first challenge that people were talking about earlier. These composable technologies can help there. Here's a quick quote from Gartner. Not sure, Gartner is a consulting firm that puts out a lot of, they really study I would say the landscape out there. One of the things that they said last year was that by 2025, which was, a 2-year out view, at least 25% of manufacturing applications will use a composable technology architecture. So that's quite a big jump from what they said in 2022. So, as I mentioned previously, these composable manufacturing apps are built for flexibility, right? It's these, like I said, these building blocks of technology to enable us to create value quickly and continuously iterate. It's much more of an agile way of working.
So the next prediction has to do with IoT. Now, IoT is probably one of the most misunderstood concept in this new digital reality. But what I like to talk about is not necessarily what the technology is, but what are the outcomes? What does IoT give us? So IoT is a way for us to create a world that's connected. And when I say connected, everybody would say, well, connected to machines, yes, but also connected to human beings. So the notion of IoT is, or the outcome of IoT is that we're going to be able to get more data that's compliant, and when we need it, right? And everywhere, right? That's the most important outcome that we want to come out of this. And what we're predicting is that there's going to be we're going to get past the critical mass here in terms of adoption, in terms of how people understand the technology, and most critically, the benefits that they get out of the technology. So and we surely hope that that's our prediction is going to come true. But really, what it does. And it goes hand in hand with this thing called composability that Michelle talked about, and we'll explain a bit more in just a few slides. But we're going away from this notion of what we call organizations as machines. So this very hierarchical view of how we use technology in our everyday manufacturing operations to an organism, and that comes from this notion of a network structure. So putting it all together, Michelle talked about composability and apps that do different things, connected to machines, connected to humans, and interacting in a much more social way, if you will, to create a solution that gives us, again, the outcome of higher productivity, better quality, more efficiencies, etc. And really what it allows you to is this notion of agility. So we talked, I think you mentioned agility was probably a high scoring thing. This is how it's achieved. Agility is achieved by being able to construct and reconstruct what you need to adapt to change. That's what makes agility. Agility is not flexibility. Flexibility is tweaking and changing. Agility is transforming. It's creating things that apply to what you need to be done, right? That's where lean comes in and other things. So what we're saying is IoT is going to enable that. And if you go to the next slide, we can see what does that look like in manufacturing units. In our operations, when we go down to operations, there's not going to be these monolithic systems that try to control everything from the top floor to the shop floor. We're going to see connected nodes in a network, an operator working on a bioreactor that is with a screen or an app or a device that helps him do his work better. And that app or his world is going to be tailored to himself. It's not going to be, I need to adapt to some big system that comes down from the heavens. We all know our ERP, and you have to adapt to it. It's going to be something that is adapted to him to help him do his job, and it only works for that bioreactor when he works for that, on that product, on that bioreactor, and when he needs it. And that's kind of what is Pharma 4.0 and what it's going to look like. And we will see more of that as we get into 2024.
Yeah, what I love about those IIoT technologies or edge computing technologies, it's all about making data available across the value stream, right? Like, because you can pull in data, which was probably in previous worlds was like siloed into that specific use case or that specific need, whereas this data can be shared across and be given to whomever needs it, whenever they need it, for whatever they need to do. So that's again, it's exciting. It's enabling like much more flexibility and usage of what's already being captured. So this next one, is about human-centric operation technology become the new norm. What do we mean by that? I think when we're building or making or I should say designing and developing new products in life sciences, both med devices and pharmaceutical products, we're always focused on the human, right? We're focused on the patient, and so that's a very obvious thing that comes natural, right? Because we're building products to achieve and meet a need of a patient. When we turn towards the manufacturing operations, we also want to start having some human centricity to how we develop and solution our products. So some of these technologies, like no-code platforms, for example, enable citizen development. And what does that even mean? So citizen development really is sort of the notion that allows people who have problems solve their own problems, right? In a way that doesn't require maybe a highly technical degree or electrical engineering or computer science degree, but it allows people with no code be able to go in and take those building blocks we talked about earlier and the composability topic and solve their own problems, or let the engineering team, the product engineering teams, not necessarily IT, but the engineering teams help engineer and solve the problems. This also drives operator engagement, right? When operators are involved in developing solutions as part of the problem, they are more engaged operators. This ultimately and inherently drives the quality of product. And solutions become much more operator focused, right? Again, kind of connecting a lot of these themes, but with like the IoT technologies, allowing for centralized data, but also making those solutions operator focused, giving them the data that they need to do their jobs. Such as some of these no-code platforms allow you to bring in pictures and videos and things that like enable the operator to know exactly what they need to do at the time that they need to do it. So again, it's much more operator focused, because what we also need to do is worry about this skills gap. And I think this came up in the theme in the poll in the beginning, is like operators, right? Training, hiring, and retaining operators. So this graphic is from Deloitte, again, another consulting firm that does, again, a lot of industry evaluations. What they're talking about is between now and 2030, there is going to be a 4 million person, or I should say job gap. And that's just from people leaving jobs, but also with the baby boomers aging out of the work population. We're going to have this big gap in jobs to fill. If you think about these people that are leaving, especially the baby boomers that are leaving, these are highly skilled people who have been in industry a long time. There's a lot of knowledge that's leaving the industry. So what we really need to do is focus on how do we bring folks into manufacturing, get them highly engaged, loving their jobs, focused on, building really high quality products. So this is just a quick little graphic of like all the things that operators must have in their minds at the time when they're manufacturing, right? So very much a multitasking job, from making sure that, you have all the right personal protective equipment on. And if you think about a manufacturing operation, folks that are putting their PPE on are probably looking at a paper document as they pass through the gowning area, versus getting a video or a quick thing that like changes with them to tell them exactly at the time what they need to put on. Confirming values are within specifications. I mean, there's tons of examples here. Like this person is already using both arms, right? They're probably also needing to stir or pour or add something else in, writing the date and time and signing, remembering like when I started an operation. As you can see, there's lots of sort of multitasking that an operator does. It's no matter that people are overwhelmed and are, error prone in what they do because they have to manage a lot of things. And so I think this really encapsulates pretty well some of the, the problems and issues that operators have on the floor. So here's a quick quote, again, from Deloitte. But what I think here is kind of neat is that, I think manufacturing needs to evolve. I think that there is potentially or has become some stigma around manufacturing, that it's not the sexy thing to do, or people out of college aren't, sprinting towards manufacturing. Manufacturing is becoming, with these new technologies and these new capabilities, is becoming a more innovative, higher tech area to work in. It's a more diverse environment. So this is where we need to be focusing on, is making this a really interesting, great job. I think these technologies and the capability of like engaging operators on this human-centric area will go a long way in helping us get there.
Yeah. So the next prediction is about historians and contextual data. So what we're saying here is that we are going to slowly diverge away from this notion of a historian and looking at data in much more context. So we purposely put the prediction as very tactically, and like it's moving away from historians to more context-rich data, typically in the cloud and data lakes. But really what it means is that we're going to be contextualizing data at the source and putting that in a place where it can be consumed in a way that provides insights. We actually see this already in our everyday life, and where some of this technology that's already available is going to be adopted by manufacturing, and especially in the life sciences world. Think about you taking a picture with your phone. When that picture is taken, the phone also puts time stamps, it puts GPS location, it may even do some pre-processing and put, it knows that you took it on your phone. That data goes to the cloud. So if when you go into the cloud and ask, can I see pictures that I took of, from a specific location, very quickly you can get that data out and show it to you. That's what it means contextualizing data at the source. It's very simple to do. Technology already does that for us. It's just for us to get away from this mindset that we need to think that our compliant data needs to be in this very strictly regimented, controlled thing called a historian. Once we get past that, that's when it opens up. And again, back to why is it important? The outcome. It's the insights that we want to see, the insights that we need to be better at what we do, to better to be sure about the quality that we have, to show auditors that we're in control. That's what it gives us. And it gives us to us with a very low effort. And that's what we're looking for. Obviously, we want to trust the data. I think you have all heard this notion of DRIP, data rich and information poor. There's two things that matter here. First of all, if we keep the data in a historian, we're always going to be data rich, information poor. We need to get past that. But there's also a very important aspect that's important here, bringing back this human-centric, the composable AI IoT. There's a lot of data that's on paper today that needs to be digitized. There's a lot of paper that's in people's heads. And we need to get data about what people do on the shop floor. When we bring all that together, that's when we're able to get the insights that we need. That's when it becomes really information that we can use. And we will see that happening more and more in the next year. Because again, the technology is there, it's cheap and easy to use. The only blocker is us. And we have confirmation from this from some of the bigger consulting houses that are dealing with this on an everyday perspective. A quote from Cognizant here, that they're already seeing some of that shift. They're seeing in the way that their customers are coming to them and saying, we need to get past the historian here.
So I think we're getting to the last one, and here we are. Generative AI. Again, I feel like there's been so much hype, especially over the latter part of last year, the chat GPT and such that came out. And that's great, right? That means people are interested in it, and it's a super interesting topic. And people, I think that's the first part, is getting people interested in trying to understand it. I think understanding it is the first thing. I truly believe that this year it will move beyond sort of this hype cycle part, but more into, like I said, the actual usage and use cases, and really understanding how it can benefit us, right? How we can use this new technology to benefit our operations, to increase quality. I think that some of the areas will be that, we can, this generative AI can be utilized, it's starting to be captured in more and more technologies, like sort of out of the box, can start being used as more of like a co-pilot to the human worker. We'll show some examples in a little bit of areas that we see that it can benefit and can be used and readily, easily. Models will obviously become more mature as we learn more. It can help with audit preparation, incident investigation, like many different ways it can help us, like, again, increase quality. And the other thing I think that's, in my opinion, that's motivating and driving the shift and change is that all these guidances and things that are coming out from the regulators. There's even a bunch of initiatives and programs within both FDA and EMA that are pushing sort of the usage of these tools, right? There's an emerging technology program within FDA that's really trying to take a look at what technologies are out there, how we can bring them into both, not only like product development, which is I think where I'm seeing the utilization of these technologies first, but also into the manufacturing space. Also, FDA is talking a lot more and more about the quality maturity model and how that, engagement in those models and at higher levels of maturity, how it can shift and change your inspection approaches. And a lot of that has to do with, the utilization of technical controls over sort of operational type controls that we've used in the past, right? Utilizing these technologies to support and satisfy the areas of control that we need. Also in the EMA, not to just be so US focused, but the Quality Innovation Group is also something that's looking into this area. So this is taken from an article that's been written about life sciences. What I found so interesting here is you can see different areas, the commercial R&D, but when you look at the data around the supply chain and manufacturing scope, you're going to see high usage of these tools, right? Or not, at least either usage or investment in these tools. The first one's about resiliency, using digital twins and advanced analytics, right? Between a lot and somewhat, we have, we're in the high 70% mark, as well as in efficiency via smart manufacturing, right? And this efficiency via smart manufacturing is really just using the Pharma 4.0 technologies or Industry 4.0 technologies, like the IoT that Gilad was talking about. And, again, that's up in the 80 percentile of people that are really starting to utilize these. So this is really, data that's demonstrating that these things are starting to be used in industry. Oh, this is from FDA. What I love about this quote, if you read through it, look, even just looking at the bolded, enhancing process control, equipment reliability and throughput, preventing batch loss. What I love about this quote is nowhere in here are the reasons for utilizing these technologies for financial benefit, or it's not even about being more efficient, really. It's about being more reliable, and, preventing batch loss, in my opinion, really goes towards, the assurance of availability of our next dose, which is also something that FDA is very strong in enforcing, especially again, with COVID and resiliency, is like, we want to also assure products are available for the next dose, right? It's something that's being pushed. So this is really, again, exciting. Another demonstration that our regulators are pushing and driving and motivating and getting us to utilize these new technologies. So just, again, a few examples of how you can use AI in the manufacturing space to augment our operators, as their co-pilot. Like, for example, in work instructions, if you're evaluating process, like which process steps take the longest time to complete. Maybe over on the quality management side, what are the top 3 most common defects, right? Like, that's great. That's going to focus your efforts on any continuous improvement efforts. And then we've got down here on like batch records, electronic batch records. Are there trends in my data? Where can I focus on continuous improvement, right? Like, using AI to consume and ingest the information or data that you're building to turn it into information and, potentially knowledge and insights much easier, quicker, and faster. Again, this alleviates any operator or quality person or even engineer, process engineer, from having to go and build out these spreadsheets, in a manual way, and doing all the things. You can use AI to do this. Also, line clearances. What is the average time to complete a line clearance in December? Looking at trends over time. Like, there's just many different ways that, AI can be used today in a non-invasive way that does not, require any additional efforts to deploy. So that's sort of those are our predictions for this year. Gilad, do you want to start talking about how to move on from that and implement?
Yeah, for sure. So, that's the important part. So if our predictions are true, which we believe, there are things that we need to be prepared for. First of all, is this notion of a composable approach, which is, I'm sure, not exactly clear to in everybody's mind. As we said, the best way to really think about it is, what are the outcomes? So what does composability mean? So composability, the outcome of it is that it gives you a lot of agility. And agility comes from 2 things. One is that you have a network effect, meaning that you structure your solutions to be organic and organisms, as I mentioned before, and that you have they're human-centric, and you have the data. It collects the data that you need. So in the future, what we'll see is that you're not going to have one big system that tries to manage everything, as I mentioned, but you will walk onto the floor. You will see a person interacting with a piece of equipment, with a tool, a digital tool, and it can be an app on a mobile, on a tablet, a wearable, even just cameras connecting to it, and it services him at the place that he needs. And if something changes, it's very, very quick to change and adapt. Meaning that if I need to change, if the operator, we use a new product, or there is a specific cap that needs to be implemented, we need to collect some more data around something, that's very easy to do and implement. The operator, goes to the screen. Now he has something else. It's all obviously all in compliance and governed, etc. So that's our vision of what the future may look like. It's different apps running in different places, not one big system, and focused on helping the operator do his job and digitizing everything, meaning that we're collecting data about everything that's going on, not only what's connected to the machine, the few IOs that connect to the machine.
So I've talked a lot about the humans here, but this is really, really important. Prioritize your most important asset, which is your people, right? Your operators that are building these products. for anybody here that's a quality person, I hope you know Deming, understand, and what he's done for, I would say, the world. But he has written many things. I mean, he has done many things, but he has put out 14 basic principles of leadership, of operations. One that I want to highlight is leadership, right? And I think what I love about it, it is not to like tell people what to do, but the aim of leadership is to help people and machines, which I thought was really interesting, is in there, do a better job, right? That's what leadership's role and responsibility is to help the people and machines do a better job. The second one I wanted to highlight is transformation, right? And it's interesting because we talk about transformation today, and it's much more focused on digital transformation and things like that. But when he wrote these, transformation was just about transforming your organizations. And it is everyone's job, right? It's not just leadership. It's not just the C-suite of folks that are driving an operation, but it is the people on the floor. And a quote, massive training is required to instill the courage, right? This is a thing, especially to evolve, change. Transformation really infers big change, right? But you need the courage to break with tradition. Every activity and every job is a part of the process. And so we really do want to focus on engaging those operators. We really, truly feel that these newer technologies, the democratization of these technologies enables this sort of engagement or increased engagement of operators in the manufacturing environment. Again, driving increased quality really is, at the end of the day, what we're trying to look for. Yeah, so this slide is not very manufacturing specific, but I do love it. Another colleague built this slide, and what I love about it is I think we can all feel what's happening here, right? This car's in the pit, but the main driver, or I shouldn't even use driver, but the main point here is that we want to go as fast as possible, and to do that, we need to take some maintenance here. And you have an entire team here working together. Everybody has a role, right? The frontline worker is obviously the driver of this automobile. We've got the manufacturing engineer, doing some maintenance. Quality is bringing in, the tires obviously is a very important point here. And we've got the head of operations over there trying to choreograph the entire thing. What I love about this is it requires a huge team of people to work together and to have a general understanding of what the needs are, be equipped with the right things at the right time to enable to do their jobs fast and with precision.
So, just to reflect back, I think courage is very important, especially in life sciences. We have to have the courage to transform, especially when we talk about practices, validation practices today. It takes courage to stand up and say we want to do it differently. We need to do it differently. And Michelle and I deal with that on an everyday basis. We want to help you get that courage, and this is kind of where one of the things come in. There is just released a Pharma 4.0 baseline guide, and just reflect about that. It is a step to help you get that courage. Now there is from the industry another playbook or maybe even a recipe to how you do this. So you can start leaning on some of these things that the industry is saying from that perspective. That's super important. If you have not read it or not gone to it, it's in the ISPE. I'm sure everybody has seen this Pharma 4.0 operational model. The baseline guide includes a lot of detail and a lot of extra information or explanations of what this all means. But it's there, it's working. We see customers using this as a guideline and a basis for their transformation, for the use of digital technologies with the benefits that come with that. Some interesting thing to look at, when you look at this, is I always bring it up if you have not heard me say this. The 4 quadrants, only one is actually technology. The other 3, resources, organization, culture, all about people. So this human-centric thing that we talked about, adapting to composability, which is also a human-centric trait. It's inherently in our human ability is to be composable and to be agile. Those are things that are core to Pharma 4.0. And we need to understand that and live it. So I wanted to conclude to bring back AI, so I went to Bard. Bard is the ChatGPT of Google. So it's essentially Google's answer to ChatGPT. And asked them, what's the FDA and EMA latest position on digital technology in manufacturing? It brought back quality by design, which I thought was interesting. Quality by design for the life science industry dates back to early 2000. For manufacturing as a whole, dates back to the 80s. And I think it's at the core of everything that we talk and say about, even in the baseline guide. It really is all about product quality and ensuring that we have the right product quality. What we want to do is get to that quicker, faster, less effort, with greater insights from the data we have. And we have those capabilities today. So if I reread what Bart told me, it basically says, implement digital technologies faster, adopt Pharma 4.0 faster. That's what the regulators are asking us to do. And they're saying that they were there all along. They've never they have in fact never made it, even though that's the perception, their intent was never to make it harder on us. They actually want to give us the tools. And they've done that since the early 2000s to be more efficient, to be more productive. And that's our last slide. Megan has a few announcements, and then we'll go over to Q&A.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gilad and Michelle. It was a really great discussion. We'll be getting into the Q&A in just a moment. Wanted to call out that we have an upcoming webinar next week, focused on the power of EDHR, compliance, quality, and productivity. For anyone in the medical device industry interested in EDHR and Tulip's capabilities, this session's for you. So you can either use the QR code there, or we'll share a link for you to register right after and prepare for that. So we'll be getting into the Q&A right now. So first I'll focus on the Q&A tab here, and then I'll read through the chat because it was a really engaging discussion through the chat. So I'll make sure every thought and question has been addressed. So first, how can you ensure proper governance when leveraging a no-code platform and citizen development? That's citizen development culture.
This is a really great question, right? Because it comes up a lot. We talk to a lot of our customers about it. We do want to encourage sort of what we call citizen development, but citizen development doesn't have to be this scary thing that's like the wild, wild west. That's not the point. The point is to enable people who understand the problems to be able to solve their own problems. Now, like a lot of other technologies, these no-code app building platforms have a lot of governance features, from user roles and different rights and roles into access management that allows you to enable certain people to have access to do this. You can require certain trainings to enable somebody to do that, like so that they understand the application a little bit. There are also a lot of these tools also have version management of what you're building. So if you build, like we call them apps, if you build an app, those apps have approvals and version management, just like you would in like a EDMS or an electronic document management system. So there's other controls around these tools that enable you to manage them the way you do your current processes. However, also enabling people to be a part of the solution.
So I want to add, so yeah, the tools are there. So step number one is recognize that you need to define how you want to control and manage these tools, and not be skeptical. It's not the old way of doing things where everything is centralized and you put these regimented or rigid structures in place. You need to allow citizen development, and you get controlled by the data that you get. So in a modern tool like Tulip, you can see when somebody creates an app. You can see if somebody changes an app. You can see what they put in the app. An app will never go to the floor without a due process, and you have enormous amount of data about what's going on. I mean, to the point where you can do trends. We say this site, these people at these sites, they always kind of they push the envelope, and we have to be a bit more watchful and with a bit more scrutiny about what they're doing versus others. All that is available to you, and you have to kind of be open minded. Data is part of digital transformation, and the insights that you have, not only from your manufacturing, the insights about patterns and behaviors and everything that you do is available to you.
Awesome. Great answers. All right, the next question. How do you see photos and videos becoming as ubiquitous as data? Do you foresee new regulations being introduced here?
I'll let you, Michelle, answer the regulation.
Yeah, I'm not sure the background of this question, but like photos and videos, in my opinion, are just other rich types of data, right? And the idea is that like we try to encourage usage of photos and videos within our applications, because when a manufacturing operator is trying to perform an activity, especially something that might be complex, like seeing somebody else doing it, or a picture with an arrow pointing like this part, or, again, a video walking you through explicitly how to do it, how to turn the thing over, or, I think that is a way of providing more value to an operator, right? Showing them exactly what they need to do when they need to do it. So that's the reason for this. And I do think it is a very rich type of data that can provide better insights to somebody trying to perform a job. Now, do I foresee new regulations being introduced here? I'm like, if somebody's on the call and can provide more context to that question, I'd be happy to get into that more. But I mean, again, it's just another data format, in my opinion.
Yeah, and from a recent experience with customers, in fact, the regulators like it. It's the old adage: the picture is worth 1,000 words. I mean, we collect data. If there's a defect or a deviation, and you add a picture to it, it's uncontested. I can see that it's wrong. The label was put on wrong, or whatever. The color is wrong. So as an additional data point, to be able to show evidence of what you need to do and show that you're in compliance, it's very, very powerful, and I think very well received by the regulators. And again, it's just data. So I don't see that you need to have any additional regulation around it. If you're capturing a temperature, you're capturing a picture. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Guidance is right.
Absolutely. And I think somebody doubled down. What about using photos as evidence? And I think you spoke to that a little bit, Gilad. Any other final thoughts about the photos and videos as evidence and seeing that?
I was just actually trying to type in there, and I can't type as fast as I'm listening and everything. But yeah, I agree. Like, photos as evidence are absolutely a really great way to capture a lot of information quickly, right? What's the alternative? To type out or try to describe something, or just say pass fail. Like, a picture as evidence is immediate, it's captured and stored, and can be stored, right? Again, it captures 1,000 words very quickly. So we are seeing that on a daily basis. That is definitely a high usage of not only like the master data that we talked about as part of the instruction of like a batch record maybe, but really the transactional data of capturing evidence of either performing something and or performing it correctly, right?
I have a very nice story about this, unrelated. So just how powerful of a tool it is, not from the industry. And it's personal. So my wife got a ticket for not stopping in a stop sign. And she, of course, said, I'm sure I stopped. And then they sent her a video of her not stopping. There was a camera above so it's a very, very powerful tool to show evidence, and you cannot argue. And of course,
yeah,
it has a timestamp. You can see where it is because you can see the surroundings, like it's that specific intersection. Really, Alcoa, it's 100% Alcoa. There was I could not punch any holes in it at all.
Yeah. One thing to call out, we actually do have an upcoming webinar within the general manufacturing space focused on a specific customer, a specialty vehicle manufacturer, but they actually implement applications that require these images for quality management throughout the assembly line. So if anyone is interested in a few examples, I know it's within the general manufacturing space, but we have a featured customer webinar that's kind of showcasing specific examples there. Happy to share that as well. All right, getting into the next question, focus on AI. So besides AI, what specific other types of technology do you think will have a major impact on frontline operations in the life sciences sector in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a lot about it. These no-code app building platforms, so to speak, right? These are very composable platforms, right? So these building blocks of solutions is really, I think, what we're talking about in the no-code piece, right? Being able to build or solve a problem with no more knowledge than building a PowerPoint presentation, for example, right? Like you bring widgets, you format these widgets. Same thing, you can build these technologies. That is really a democratized way of solving problems, right? So that's mostly what, like, we've covered that and one of our predictions this year, that these types of technologies are going to start taking off because we need to be more agile, because we need to engage our workers more.
Yeah. To add to that, let's be fair. A lot of what we have is on paper, and step number one is to digitize paper, and that and before you can apply any kind of AI, your data needs to be digital. AI you cannot feed it paper. That paper needs to be in a digital form. And that's a very important thing that we need to understand in our industry. So AI is good, but AI also requires some level of data in a certain format. Typically, we talk about the 3 V's: velocity, variety, and I can't remember the last one. Volume, velocity, and variability. In order for AI to be able to give you the insights you need to have a lot of data. It has to be very varied, meaning rich. It needs to include a lot more than just what is in your historian, and it has to come in at a high rate. It needs to be constantly changing. Step number one: let's get rid of paper. That's going to get us closer to be able to use AI.
Awesome. Another question that came through the chat. Organizations are enforcing us to not push data to outsource AI, ChatGPT, and similar due to proprietary data sharing concerns. So we have a disruptive technology, but not in the forum where we can use it. How and when do you see that position changing?
Yeah. So, and I put one sentence in there. I think it's this. It's this mystical new technology, and everybody's afraid of it. So yes, ChatGPT and the model that's trained across all the internet and it's public, etc. Those same technologies can be directed and only on proprietary data and not accessible to anybody else. We actually already do that. We have tools in Tulip that we use for our own benefit, and we provide we also provide generative AI in our tool, in the Tulip tool. You can point it, for example, at that PDF, a set of PDFs, and ask it questions of that PDF. That doesn't go into the public domain. So again, it's just it's like cloud was initially. And I know everybody, cloud is dangerous. Probably no, it isn't. Cloud is super secure. It's secure, much more secure than anything that you would ever imagine is on-prem on your facility. Same thing applies for some of these new AI technologies.
Awesome. I think there's another thought here that someone mentioned. It's very exciting. It's about the human-centric component and challenging to socialize this inside our pharma factory and gain understanding of the possibilities and buy-in. So how would you work, turning that into a question, how would you work to, instill that change or, get that buy-in from, leaders within a pharma factory?
Yeah, you want to go first, you can.
Step number one, have the courage to say we need to do things differently. So listen to Deming. He said that back in the 60s and 70s, by the way, just so you guys know.
Which is mind-blowing that how much it applies, if not more today than it did back then. I also just have an anecdote to share on that as well is, I was just at the ISPE annual meeting conference, or actually it was Pharma 4.0 conference in December. And I personally went or listened to 2 to 3 presentations specifically on change management, right? This gets to, if you recall, the operating model that Gilad showed in the Pharma 4.0, culture. Culture is an entire block. It's one of the 4 quadrants of the operating model for Pharma 4.0. We recognize that it's a cultural shift and change management of people is one of the biggest success factors that these presentations we're talking about. Is that it's engaging the people, right? The impacted people. And this is, again, keep going back to the operators. The operators need to be a part of the change up front. There's lots of data showing, the people who are engaged before, during, and or after the change, and how they were much more successful with projects where they worked with the operators or the impacted people, whomever that might be, as part of the change, right? So it's a real part of implementing technologies is to engage and manage change, people change. So yeah, be courageous.
Awesome. Well, I think that's really all the time we have for today. Thank you again, Gilad and Michelle, for a great conversation, great engaging chat and Q&A. Be sure to look out for our next virtual event. And thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.